And you're watching a Rise News Hour. Let's go back to one of our main stories. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky's surprise visit to the UK. He's holding a press conference now with Prime Minister Rishi Sunak and at a military base in the west of England. Let's listen in.
And that's why we've announced today that we will be training Ukrainian Air Force on NATO standard platforms. Because the first step in being able to provide advanced aircrafts is to have soldiers or aviators that are capable of using them. That is a process that takes some time. We've started that process today. That's because we're keen to support the President and his country in delivering a victory. And nothing is off the table. And our leadership on this issue is something that we all collectively should be very proud of. And I know that the President is grateful for.
Дуже дякую.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you for your question. With regard to the equipment, that we need, of course, there's a lot of equipment we need and a lot of different equipment. It all depends on the situation, on the battlefield, on the kind of in the military direction, but also depends on what's happening within the country. You know how we are fighting against the Iranian drones. You know, there are hundreds and thousands of them, and we are fighting against them by various means, and that includes also our ballistic missiles, because these unmanned vehicles, these Iranian drones, they hit civilian infrastructure, educational infrastructure, hospitals, schools, civilians, because they are trying to threaten Ukrainians, but they're trying to make them flee, but Ukrainians are not going to flee, because that is why when we talk about this, we do need air defense systems, and we are grateful to everyone who is providing them. And that also, when we have those systems, that allows people to go to work, and once people work, obviously this money, they'll not just go for pensions or other social welfare, but also this also goes to support our warriors. That's why it's very important that we have everything needed to support people in their jobs. And when we talk about the battlefield, what are our priorities? Of course, armored vehicles. We know that our enemy has got thousands units of armored vehicles, back from the Soviet Union heritage. And of course, NATO armored vehicles, they are the best, and yet there are only few of them. When you only have 10 NATO armored vehicles against 1,000 of Soviet armored vehicles, well, what are the chances, And we have no way out. We have to stand firm. We need armored vehicles, we need tankers, we need fighter jets, and obviously we've spent a lot of time talking about this together, and you've just heard what Mr. Prime Minister has already mentioned. And even today and tomorrow we will be meeting with the EU leaders and discussing these issues, and also longer range missiles. That's our priority, and I'm very grateful that Britain has finally heard us in that regard, and I do hope that other countries will also hear us when it comes to longer range missiles, because we do need to push back the Russians so people can just live. And as to the offensive, what can I say? Frankly, we live in the state of war. What can I say here? We cannot be just thinking about the offensive. The offensive has never happened, it's just been a different kind of intensity. So all we need to think is that let us make Russians think about Ukrainian counteroffensive, okay? They need to be thinking about this. They need to be thinking how they should be leaving our territory. That's all I would like to share with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Volodymyr. Next, can I call on BBC Ukraine?
Greetings, Mr. President. I would really like to hug you, but I'm not allowed. Why not? Please, do give me a hug,
Security.
My question is to you, Mr. Sunak. You know that Ukrainian soldiers, they are dying every day. Don't you think that that decision about warplanes is taking too long? And and the other question is, what are your steps to clear the reputation of London as a city that is still laundering Russian money? Thank you.
So I think you heard from the President's previous answer, Natalia, about the very immediate needs, and that's air defence and long-range missiles. And that's the conversation that we've been having most recently about how can we provide air defence to protect the Ukrainian population. That has been the thing that we've talked about probably most in all of our conversations, which is why we've provided thousands of surface-to-air missiles and air defence systems, and will continue to do so, and more are coming over the next few weeks. And as the President said, probably the most crucial capability right here and now is main battle tanks, which we led on, but also those long-range missiles. I think that and all the talking that we've done and the planning for how we can have decisive victory on the battlefield and make progress, it requires long-range missiles, which currently the range is not there. And again, that's the conversation that we've been having, and again, we hope that Britain can lead. But when it comes to protecting soldiers, I think we feel very acutely the tragedy and the hardship that your country and your countrymen are going through. And we've both had the privilege of meeting some of them today. I've met some of them in the past, and their bravery is inspiring. It's awe-inspiring to see, as I have, the ordinary citizens, young men and women who are fighting to defend their country and being trained to do so here. And they go with not just our wishes and our training, but they go with our full support, with all the equipment that we can continue to provide them, and will continue to do so. But rest assured, we are here with you, with your people, and continue to provide you with whatever we can to ensure their safety and indeed their success.
Thank you.
And with regard to sanctions, I think as you saw at the beginning of this conflict, I used to be the finance minister, and we put in place, the President talked about it earlier today, probably the most extensive and forward-leaning sanctions package of any country at the beginning of this conflict, to demonstrate very clearly that Russia's aggression was unacceptable and we would punish them in every which way we could. We've announced further sanctions today, but continually when it comes to sanctions, we have, I think, led. And you remember the conversations we had on things like SWIFT and banks right at the beginning of this conflict. Again, it was Britain that led the way in pushing for very strict sanctions, and as I said, we've announced further today. And wherever we can continue, to tighten them and do more, we will look to do so, as we have done today. Next, can we go to Sky News, please?
Thank you. Dominic Waghorn, Sky News. Prime Minister, if I could ask you first of all, there does seem to have been a lag between Ukraine asking for more sophisticated weaponry and it eventually being given. They asked for more advanced artillery. It was eventually sent. They've asked for tanks, and they will be sent eventually. They now want fighter jets, and we're training their pilots, but we're not sending the jets. Your predecessor, one of your predecessors, a close friend of President Zelensky, has wondered why we're not doing more. Why not send more so they can finish off the job now? What is holding the West back? Why is there that lag? Mr. President, good to see you again. If I could ask you about fighter jets, how urgently do you need them, and what does it mean for your country if you don't get them?
So, I mean, I'll take that as the first question. And again, I probably the notion of the question, because I think we have continually led, actually, in the UK with the provision of equipment to Ukraine, and whether it was right at the beginning with anti-tank missiles, whether, as you heard from the President, the importance of armoured vehicles, I think we've sent hundreds, whether it's artillery guns, again, in the next few weeks, a new set of batteries of artillery guns will arrive, tanks we've already talked about, and we're training combat aircraft for the first time. Indeed, actually something that we should have probably been doing a long time ago, because we have a long-standing training relationship with Ukraine that predates the war. But that is something, as we look forward, we'll want to continue to do more of, as we want to make sure that the Ukrainian armed forces are trained on NATO standard equipment, and there's greater interoperability between Ukraine and NATO, which is very much something that we've been discussing. So I think actually we've continued to be on the forward leading edge of it, and we're providing things as quickly as we can. The Challenger tanks are going to be on the battlefield, as I said, in a matter of weeks. I mean, you've seen the Ukrainian soldiers being trained on them as fast as we can, and we're providing them as fast as we can, and we know that they will make a difference. And I think the President would tell you, we've been having conversations for the few months that I've had this job, and relatively rapidly after we discuss what is necessary, Ukraine sees that we do respond, and then we galvanise others to respond too. That's what we have done, and that's what we'll continue to do.
Thank you very much. And I would like to be honest with you here. In the history of this war, there are several pages, and one of these pages, so in fact even sections, maybe in this war, has been a very special section for our warriors, and also Great Britain providing equipment, and here we're talking about javelins as well. And then our people had to rise up, and they had to fight with what they had. We're not doing any self-pitying here, okay? What they had, they were doing, and we were just grateful for whatever we were getting. And then we turned another page, and then we turned into we all turned into fury, because Russians were just killing and murdering people, and they were raping people, and we were ready to have anything and use any kind of weapons just to destroy them. And then we turned another page, artillery. We needed artillery. We needed to work in a different direction, and this is exactly where we received some help and support. For example, in certain places, obviously Great Britain helped us a lot, but when it comes to HIMARS, we got a lot of help from the US, and we are really grateful to them for this page in the history of war. I think it's very important to understand that Russia has no pity for their own people. They just keep on throwing their people into the battlefield. Whereas we have pity, and we protect our people. We would not throw them just onto the battlefield. We needed to prepare them. And that kind of marked a different stage in the war. And now we've come to kind of the stagnation phase. You've just asked me what would happen if we don't get this fighter jets or the longer range missiles, or we don't have enough ammunition, or because everything obviously is, running out and coming out of maintenance. Or if you don't have this 185 artillery, there will be stagnation. These people will be coming and be living on our territory.
And that's President Zelensky there addressing a joint press conference with the British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak. Mr. Zelensky making an unannounced visit to Britain and appealing for more military support. You've been watching Arise News Hour with me, Charles Enyagolu. Please keep it here on Arise News from the entire team here in Abuja, the UK and around the world. Bye-bye, and thank you for watching.